Hello, my name is Sammy. Welcome to Let's Learn About Astrology. This is part one, where we'll learn about the 12 signs and their symbols. First we have Aries the ram, Taurus the bull, and Gemini the twins. Our next signs in the zodiac are Cancer the crab, Leo the lion, and Virgo the virgin. These are the signs of Libra, the scales, Scorpio, the scorpion, and Sagittarius, the archer. The last signs of the zodiac and their symbols are Capricorn, the goat, Aquarius, the water bearer, and Pisces, the fish. Let's review the 12 signs and their symbols. First we have Aries, the ram, Taurus the bull, Gemini the twins. Here again we have Cancer the crab, Leo the lion, Virgo the virgin. Here is Libra the scales, Scorpio the scorpion, and Sagittarius the archer. Our last three signs again are Capricorn the goat, Aquarius the water bearer, and Pisces the fish. Next we'll be going on to the elements of the sign. They group into four: the fire signs, the air signs, the water signs, and the earth signs. Here are the three fire signs: Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The fire signs represent ego. Here are the three earth signs which represent service in the zodiac: Taurus the bull, Virgo the virgin, and Capricorn the goat. Here we have the air signs representing the intellect of the zodiac: Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Finally, we have the water signs. They represent the emotions. We have Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now we see the circle of the zodiac, sometimes known as a chart. These are what are known as the 12 houses. The 12 houses are representatives of the signs themselves. In the first house, which is sort of 9 o'clock on your regular clocks, we have the house of personality and yourself. The first 6 signs on the bottom of the chart are representative of yourself. The top signs are representative of other people. We have Aries, which is a fire sign, which says, I am, the house of personality, ruled by Mars. The next we have in this order, the earth sign, Taurus, the sign of your own money and possessions, the sign that says, I have, ruled by Venus. In the third house, we have communications, brethren, short journeys. The sign that says, I think, is Gemini, an air sign. And you see as they go in the order, the fire signs I've done in red, the earth in blue, the air signs, the intellect signs in green, and the water signs in black. Next, we have a water sign in our fourth house, the house of the home and mother, the sign of Cancer ruled by the moon, the sign that says, I feel, and of course, being a water sign, having to do with emotions. The next we have the fifth house, the house of pleasure, fun, children, also amusements and games. The Leo house, ruled by the sun, says, I will, a fire sign here. The next is the sixth house, the house of health, and that's ruled by Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, and says, I analyze, which is an earth sign. Health, hygiene, service, the sixth house. In our seventh house, which is the opposite of ourselves, our personality, which was Aries, which was a fire sign, we have an air sign. Air is always opposite fire, nourishing itself, as the water signs are opposite the earth signs. I balance, says Libra, the scales, having to do with partnerships, marriages, courtships. The 7th house, ruled by Venus. In our 8th house is our house of sex, death, legacies, money of the dead, opposite Taurus, the money, our own money. We have money of others, and that's the Scorpio house, which says, I desire, which is a water sign. Next, in the 9th house, we have the house of philosophy, religion, long journeys. Opposite Gemini, the air sign, we have a fire sign, Sagittarius, which being the archer says, I see. In our 10th house, which represents the top of the chart, which would be your 12 o'clock on a regular time clock, we have Capricorn. And this is what we achieve to get in our charts is the 10th house, what we are trying to climb towards, the goat pictured as a goat always climbing up the mountain, persistent, determined, with many obstacles put in its way. Our house of goals and status seeking as well as achievements. The sign that says I use is an earth sign, Capricorn. In our 11th house is our Aquarius house. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. We have the hopes, friends, and wishes. The sign that says I know is Aquarius, an air sign. And our last house, the house of secret sorrow, self-undoing, sacrifice, the 12th house, ruled by Pisces here, which is ruled by Neptune. We'll get into the planets, their symbols, and their rulership over the signs in our next portion. Pisces is a water sign that says, I believe. So there you have the first setup of our zodiac. Aries, the first house, Taurus, the second. These are the traditional houses in our zodiac. Gemini, Cancer, in this order, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. The earth signs are always opposite the water signs. The fire signs are opposite the air signs. The fire signs having to do with ego. The earth signs having to do with service. The air signs, intellect, and the water signs, emotion. Next, let's go on to the symbols of the planets and their rulership over the signs. Now we turn to the planets and their symbols and the signs that they rule. As I said, astrology is known as the science of symbols. So hopefully in these editions of Let's Learn About Astrology here on GCTV, Channel 6 in Greenfield, we'll be learning some of the more basic principles of astrology. The sun rules Leo, having to do with the 5th house. The moon rules Cancer, having to do with the 4th house. The sun represents our consciousness, our being, who we are in terms of ourselves. Not our personality, but the manifestation, as we see here, of consciousness. The moon represents our subconscious, our dark side, our inside. And Mercury is a planet of communication. Basically, the three symbols that make up the planets, how to draw out the planets, is a circle, consciousness, a half circle, subconscious, and what's known as the spirit and matter cross, which looks like a plus symbol. And that's how we get Mercury, which is a subconscious on top of a conscious with spirit and matter below it, having to do with communication. It rules Gemini and Virgo, one of the planets that rules two signs. And let's continue with our symbols of the planets. Next we have the symbol of Venus, the planet of love, affection. It's a controlled energy. As you can see, the consciousness is over the spirit and matter as opposed to the next planet, Mars. I've put a little symbol of what it really looks like without the arrow, which is really a Venus upside down. Venus, the planet of love, is the ruling planet of Taurus and Libra. Mars is hostility. As you remember, these are based on some of the Roman and Greek mythological gods. Mercury, of course, was the messenger of the gods. Venus was love, Mars was war and hate. Here I've put energy out of control or uncontrolled energy. Rules the sign of Aries, Mars. Jupiter is a planet of great fortune and expansion and good luck, and it rules the sign of Sagittarius. Next in our symbols of the planets, we have Saturn, the planet that rules Capricorn. Saturn is a planet of restriction and limitation, as well as achievement and goals, lesson learning. It's the opposite of Jupiter in its symbolism, whereas Jupiter has the subconscious free going up over the spirit and matter. We have the spirit and matter over the subconscious here. Saturn, also in the old mythology known as Cronus. Next we have Uranus, and that rules Aquarius. Here we have an interesting symbol of a Mars symbol with basically two subconsciouses on the side of it. It's a planet of sudden changes, disasters, having to do with electricity, invention, eccentricity, and so forth. Next we have the last planets in our symbols, and we hope you stay with us here on Let's Learn About Astrology. My name is Sammy, hosting your program of basic astrology lessons here on Channel 6 in Greenfield. Finally, we have the symbol of Neptune, which looks sort of like Neptune's trident, the god of the seas, what we call a neutral planet. The planets fall into different categories of malefic or benefic or good or bad planets. Neptune, like Mercury, being one of the only neutral planets. Here it rules Pisces, and remember that Pisces was our 12th house. Neptune has to do with the emotions, fantasy, illusion, film, and insanity, as well as a great need to help people. Pisces, of course, says, I believe. Sometimes I talk about people being on either side of the locked door in institutions. I put the little arrows there just to emphasize a trident, but it's really a subconscious intermingled there with a spirit and matter. And finally, we have probably one of the most misunderstood and complicated signs and planets of Pluto, really sometimes known as an ice dwarf. These days might not even be a planet. I put the little symbol underneath it of a P combined with an L. Some people say that comes from Percival Lowell, as you remember, the astronomer who in fact watched for 30 years this star to prove that it was a planet, if it is, the one who saw canals on Mars and so forth. Here we have a consciousness cradled by a okay. In our symbol here, we have a consciousness cradled by a subconscious and over a spirit and matter. Of course, you know, plutonium is one of the deadliest substance, if not the deadliest substance known to man. Plutonium is the main ingredient in the atomic weapons. This is a planet of mass destruction for the purpose of rebirth, and it rules Scorpio. Remember, our 8th house, the house of not only sex, but death, the beginning and the end. Probably, as I say, one of the most misunderstood signs. In fact, the symbol of Scorpio is an ancient symbol of the fallopian tubes, whereas Virgo was one and the same, but you can see that it has a cutoff in the tubes. It's either white hot or ash cold, Pluto. And thank you for joining us here on this edition of Let's Learn About Astrology. Now let's review all the signs and planets and their symbols and ask you what these symbols are. If you have a pencil or pen, you can jot them down. Later we'll be learning how to, or at least how I draw the symbols, and they're basically kind of universal. First we have the first sign. Can you tell us what this sign is? If you guessed Aries, that's correct. The sign that says I am, the first house. As you can see, it kind of looks like a ram, its horns. It's a fire sign, and it rules the first house, the house of personality and yourself, and is ruled by the planet Mars.